And thank y'all for taking the time to be here. As you all know, Donald Trump is going to be in Fayetteville later on today, and I think that we felt that he could not go unchecked for the fact that he's coming here to celebrate veterans and the work that this administration has done. But I think that we want to all highlight what this administration has done to veterans right now. DOGE has already imposed substantial cuts to the Department of Veterans Affairs, leading to hundreds of contracts and cancellations throughout North Carolina, roughly 2,400 layoffs, with Donald Trump's administration suggesting that they will lay off 80,000 more VA employees. And these cuts will have adverse impacts on North Carolina's veterans in major ways. As of 2022, 680,000 veterans called North Carolina home, with an additional 20,000 transitioning out of the military each year. Many of those veterans rely on North Carolina's VA's facilities for their health care, including 21% with disabilities. On March 11th, the GOP-led House of Representatives passed a budget that would cut over $20 billion from the Toxic Exposure Fund, eliminating the program that cares for veterans who have been exposed to burn pits, Agent Orange, and other toxic substances through their services to our country. As of May 2024, at least 45,000 of North Carolina's veterans had approved claims related to toxic exposures. And without the funds, there is no guarantee that financial support to help those veterans with resulting illnesses, including cancer, will get the help that they deserve. Cutting the VA violates the sacred promise that we've made to our veterans, a promise to take care of those who have sacrificed for us. That broken promise hurts all North Carolinians, especially our veterans. And the VA cuts will delay and deny them access to critical care, including for service-connected disabilities. This diminishes access will almost certainly contribute to staggering rates of veteran homelessness, suicide, and addiction, leaving veterans and their families to pick up the pieces alone. The VA Secretary Doug Collins has criticized spending on veteran suicide prevention. In 2021, 203 North Carolina veterans died by suicide, with serious mental health conditions afflicting North Carolina veterans at higher rates than the average population, and DOGE cuts could leave them without life-saving care. With the Trump administration suggesting they will lay off over 80,000 more employees, veterans can expect longer wait times, overworked providers, and less access to care. Is this the future that the fifth largest state in the country for veterans would like to see for the future of it? If not, I suggest that the American people and North Carolina voters today advocate to Congress and also advocate to this administration that we do not want to see any cuts any longer in North Carolina, and we'd like to see services restored and better access for this care across the state of North Carolina. Here to tell you all more today is our second vice chair of the state party, Dr. Kimberly Hardy, everybody.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Kimberly Hardy, second vice chair of the North Carolina Democratic Party and proud daughter and sister to veterans of our U.S. military. My father voluntarily enlisted in the United States Marine Corps to serve 2 tours in Vietnam. My younger brother was an MP at Marine Corps Base Quantico, and my older brother was stationed right here in Fayetteville as a member of the 82nd Airborne Division. I have uncles who are veterans, friends who have courageously put on their uniform and served at home and abroad, students in my classes who tell stories of their service far away from family for months and years at a time, and students in the ROTC program who take their oaths at commencement every year, ready to embark on military careers. I also know the families of these veterans who rely on each other and the supportive resources allocated to them because of their loved ones' bravery. Those of us standing here today know that the whole family serves, which means the whole family deserves the benefits that they were promised and that help keep their families going. It isn't always material support, just SNAP and Medicaid, but it's also other things like access to mental health care resources. As a social worker, I know how vital it is that veterans have access to mental health care. The VA employs over 18,000 social workers nationwide, making it the largest employer of social workers in the country. They provide critical, life-saving mental health care to those veterans working to process through the trauma, stress, grief, and loss issues stemming from their military service. Trump's proposed budget bill will severely limit access to that care, due in part to the potential for massive layoffs of these critical personnel, many of whom are veterans themselves. Let me put into stark relief what I say when I mean life-saving care. In 2024, the VA estimated that on average, 17 veterans died by suicide each day in this country. Across the nation's 172 VA medical centers, over 1.7 million veterans utilize mental health care programs, such as peer support groups, individual and group therapy, and medication management. And over 9.1 million veterans utilize outpatient and telehealth services. There are over 24,000 veterans living in Fayetteville, and some are living in parks just like this one. Some live under bridges and in doorways because they can't access supportive housing, substance abuse, or mental health programs, even with the VA currently funded at its available resources. In January 2024, over 32,000 veterans experienced homelessness on any given night in this country, and 40% of veterans are currently battling addiction to drugs or alcohol. Trump's plan would needlessly exacerbate those numbers by cutting millions of dollars from existing programs. His disdain for our military has been evidenced repeatedly over the years, most recently from West Point's graduation to the streets of Los Angeles. How dare he come to Fayetteville, North Carolina today to use the celebration of the Army's 250th birthday as a photo op while his sycophants in Congress work at his behest to deprive veterans of their well-deserved care. The sign in front of the VA hospital down the street from here says the price of freedom is visible here. Trump has no respect for the men and women who made our freedom a priority, and this bill says that veterans are not a priority for him. With that in mind, we stand here today because we refuse to allow Trump to enter our military sphere without a real recognition of our brave servicemen and women. Thank you all for your service, for your unwavering dedication, for all that you have done. Happy birthday to our U.S. Army. Next up, I'd like to introduce Sergeant Gerard Falls, 82nd Airborne combat veteran, educational leader, and community nonprofit leader.
All right.
All right, thank you, Dr. Hardy, and welcome, everyone. My name's Gerard Falls, and I am a combat veteran. I served in the 82nd Airborne honorably right here, defending liberty at Fort Bragg, living out the Army values every single day. Loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. I'd like to repeat a couple of those: honor, integrity, and personal courage. In the Army, I found working people, everyday people, coming together from all walks of life for the greater purpose, a commitment to a more just and perfect union dedicated to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And like so many others, that service didn't end when I got out of the Army in 2008. For those of us who are so fortunate to have come back home after service, our commitment to those values, to our community, to our nation, to our Constitution itself continues. Our obligations to all of our neighbors continues. I have a serious question for the folks behind me, for example, and those who have joined us today. Were any of you paid to be here? And I'm not talking to the reporters. Were any of you paid to be here? No. Were any of you ordered to be here today? No. That may sound like silly questions, but that's exactly what's going to be happening today on post when Donald Trump lines up a bunch of soldiers, a man who betrays them and the Army values with every breath that he makes, calling them losers and suckers, lines them up in a parade field on post to serve as a captive audience for his boring and egotistical musings. The United States military exists to selflessly defend the Constitution of the United States of America, not to assist in the preservation of one selfish man's ego who would turn us against each other for his own personal preservation and enrichment. One final note. There's an open secret in military communities. Veterans, military families, and even active duty service members are the backbone of organizing for progressive values and working people at the community level. And this work is ongoing, and it will continue. We know the values that we're fighting for, and our efforts have no fatigue. We will keep on organizing and fighting for our values each and every day. That's what democracy looks like. Thank you, and happy 250th anniversary to the United States Army.
And last up today to speak to you all, we have Dr. Vicki Andrews. She serves as our Veterans and Military Caucus Chair.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, you can tell I'm old school because I'm not doing this on my phone. I'm old school. So today is another tough day in our country's history. The way this administration governs, seemingly by executive order at a dizzying pace, is breathtaking. Now, active duty military members are being sent to Los Angeles to protect federal personnel and property. Active duty military members are being sent to Los Angeles. They're going to serve alongside the National Guard presence that wasn't even requested. It's a stark contrast to the delayed response in deploying troops during the January 6th attack on our Capitol. And now, the idea of arresting a sitting governor, no matter where you stand politically, that's something that should make everybody stop and think. From unidentified federal agents detaining people on the streets, the ones with the masks or the face coverings, to mass firing of experienced civil servants, to giving virtually unrestricted access to personal information like Social Security numbers, it's all happening right now. Active duty troops are being used in ways that feels dangerously close to policing our citizens. That's not what they signed up for. On top of that, tariffs are driving up costs, leaving everyday people to bear the burden as prices climb. It's disheartening to hear some people cheer this kind of leadership. The reality is setting in for others, especially veterans. I had conversations with veterans across our state, including those who voted for this president. Many regret their decision. They never thought the administration would backtrack on the promises made to them when they signed up to serve our country. Now they're genuinely worried. They're concerned about whether health care that they were promised will still be there when they need it. They wonder if the Social Security system they paid into will still be available to them. And most of all, they fear that the freedoms they fought for so hard to defend are starting to slip away. Now I say they are worried. I am worried because I am a veteran also. And honestly, we all should be. And our chair.
Any questions from the folks that are here today? I'm hoping we might have covered it. Cool.
I'd like to know more on the reaction to President Trump authorizing the deployment of National Guardsmen to LA to handle those protests, as well as the U.S. Marines.
Dr. Andrews, would you like to take it?
I know you mentioned some of that, but seeing deployment of U.S. soldiers on the streets of Los Angeles.
So first of all, I would say a couple of things. That is not what we signed up for when we signed up. And to do that without the governor asking for it, because the governor's on the ground. I have friends that are there right now, so I feel a little bit passionate about this. Soldiers are going to do what they're supposed to do. They follow legal orders. This is a tough one for them because they're conflicted and they're worried. It looks like when you see it that that's all of Los Angeles. It really is not. It feels to me like it's a manufactured something to lead to something else. But the ones that I know are doing it because they're supposed to follow orders, but they're not happy. I have friends that work there. They're not happy either. It's not what they're asking for. And so I think that we need to pay attention and call it out, because it's just like the first step on a slippery slope, and there's no telling where it will go, and none of this sounds good to me.
What do you need to hear from President Trump to ease any concerns that you may have right now about cuts, federal funding cuts, job cuts? Is there anything that you want to hear from President Trump today when he makes his remarks that could bring some ease to the concerns that you guys share here today?
I'll answer and I'll let someone answer. For me, I don't think it matters what we hear, because I don't believe what he says. And I think he's demonstrated that he's not truthful and doesn't have a whole lot of integrity. So I don't think it matters. He can say what he wants to say. I'm not believing it. I'm sorry.
No.
Dr. Andrews,
take it away, truly. I think that his actions prove more than his words. And right now we are seeing this administration go in and single-handedly try to destroy and rip health care away from millions of people across this state and across this country, trying to take away SNAP benefits from 2.9 million people in North Carolina, 1.3 million that are children that are also impacted veterans' families. And I think that right now we are not seeing an administration that's listening to the needs of the people on the ground. It's listening to the billionaires and the purse strings in Washington, D.C. that are controlling him right now.
Could y'all talk a little bit about the parade planned for this weekend in D.C. and just kind of what the North Carolina Democratic Party's take is on that, how they're viewing the use of our armed forces in that manner?
It's politicizing our armed forces in a way that I don't think we've seen a former president do, at least to this extent. And I also believe that it's a lavish birthday party that he's throwing for himself. To the point that Dr. Andrews made earlier, I don't think he cares about anybody else but himself in this instance. Dr. Hardy, anything to add?
Well,
And the cross.
right. I was going to say, like, when he's touting this alleged savings of all of this money from Doge, none of which is actually doing anything to help with fraud, waste, and abuse, because that parade itself is a clear indication of fraud, waste, and abuse. He wants to be a dictator. He wants to be a king, and so he thinks that he should get a kingly procession down the streets of Washington, D.C. This is costing us millions. This is making us less safe because it's taking active duty military personnel and machinery and bringing it into DC. So we're, and all because he wants to be a king. And so we have to push back against this. The people have already said that this is not what they want. The governor, to what Dr. Andrews said, did not ask for this in LA. This man is singularly focused on building this bizarre, weird legacy, and it's coming at the expense of all of our safety and many of our tax dollars.
My next question is for Gerard, just as a veteran and someone who served at the 82nd, and Dr. Andrews as well. Can you guys talk a little bit? You used the phrase captive audience with the soldiers on Fort Bragg today. Can you talk, from your perspective as a soldier, what it's like when a president or any other member of the administration comes and talks about a political agenda? What is a soldier's place in that?
Absolutely. So in Christmas Day of 2006, I was called up because we were a rapid response unit to a 3-month deployment in Iraq. It was called the Surge. That turned into an 18-month deployment, and when we returned, I was actually exposed to those burn pits that were talked about earlier during that time. When we returned, I was just about to get out, and President Bush wanted to show up and give a speech on the parade field for all the soldiers. And in 2008, let me tell you, the soldiers were not feeling particularly friendly about what they had just been through and how they were treated. All our weapons were completely disarmed, and we sat there on orders, passing out in a parade field. I can only imagine the conversations that are happening between soldiers today while they're standing out there listening to this man just flex his ego. I can only imagine the conversations, and I would encourage them to share those conversations. But if you're going to go there today, go speak to some of those soldiers. They may be off the record, but us veterans can tell you exactly what it's like to stand out there to serve one man's ego when we're in the military to serve our nation.
Thank you all very much for being here today. Oh, Dr. Andrews, you have anything to add? Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it.
Y'all have been so eloquent today. I wonder if any of y'all are going to be speaking on Saturday at any rally or...
We can give the information.
Yeah, we'll get you a list.
Do the reporters have any other questions?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
And we do have a No King's Day event here
Are
Saturday.
you speaking at that?
Oh,